Hey YouTube, today we're going to be comparing a 1911 pistol to a Sig Sauer pistol. And both of these pistols that we're going to be looking at today are chambered in 45 ACP because 45 ACP is the Lord's caliber and there is none better. Sorry to all the 9mm people. So what we're going to compare here is we have a Wilson Combat Professional 1911 on the bottom, and we have a Sig P220 on the top. And I'm going to show you some of the differences and features. A lot of people think these things are very similar, and they are similar in some ways, but they're very different in others. So before we go any further, I'm going to show you that neither one of these pistols have anything in them, and we are safe to proceed to make this video, and nobody can get hurt. We are still 100% on people getting hurt watching my videos. Nobody's ever gotten hurt, so we have a 100% track record. So what we have here is a Sig Sauer P220, and like I said, this is chambered in 45 ACP. If you look real close, it says 45 auto, and it also says P220 made in Germany. Now this is an older one that was made in the late 90s, and this has one of those rolled slides they call it, and the front was welded on afterwards, and it is a two-tone model. So this is a little bit older one. This isn't one of the new fancier ones that has all the rails to put all the Gucci Glocker accessories and stuff on it. Cool little pistol and everything, and you don't see them as often in two-tone. They're not rare or anything, but more often than none, you'll see them in solid black other than the two-tone. Now, the features of the Sig Sauer pistol, and these have been around since the like 1975-ish, mid-70s or so is when this thing was released, and a lot of people will think that this is very similar to a 1911. And some of the features of this thing is this is what they call a double action, single action pistol. And if you loaded a magazine up, this is a single stack 8-round magazine, very similar to a 1911. These magazines will not interchange though, folks. So you would load the magazine up, insert it into it, and you would rack the slide, and the hammer would be cocked. Well, if you notice on the outside of this gun, there is no external safety on it. There is no grip safety on it, like you're going to find on the next example that we look at. So at any time that you pull this trigger, it can go off. So what you're going to do here is this little lever here, this extra lever, is called a decocker. And with the round loaded in the chamber, you pull down on this and then ease the hammer down, and it never makes contact with the primer on the round. And that's how you would carry this thing. You carry it with the hammer down, one in the chamber. And then if you ever had to deploy this weapon out, the very first shot on it is going to be double action. See how the hammer's going back? And it's going to be a little bit harder pull on it for the very first shot. And then after the round goes off, it cocks, the slide cycles back, it cocks back, and then you're in single action mode. So double action, single action. It can go off double action, or it can go off in single action. But it feels very similar to a 1911. This one here has an alloy frame and a steel slide on it, so it's a little bit lighter when it's all loaded and everything. Very similar sight picture on them. Both hammer fired and everything like that. Magazine release is in the same spot. The magazines even look very similar to them. But no safeties on the outside of them in any way. You just carry it with a round in the chamber and use the decocker to rest the hammer down. So the next one is the 100-something-year-old design by John Moses Browning. Same thing on this one. You push the magazine release, has a single stack 8-round magazine that goes in it. Only this one here, you would rack a round into the slide. Once it's in there, the hammer is cocked. Well, with this one has an external safety on it. So you flip this safety up, and it keeps the slide from moving, and the gun will not go off. And this is the way you carry a 1911, folks. It's called the cocked and lock configuration. And when you draw this out of your holster, the first thing you're going to do is release this thumb safety, and it is ready to go. Now, on the back of this thing, it also has what they call a grip safety on them. So even with this safety off, if I sit here and pull this trigger, it will not go off. Your hand has to be on this grip safety right here for it to go off. And then once it goes off, I cannot pull the trigger again. It will not cycle that hammer back. So once you fire your shot off, you got to rely on the slide the cycle back. That cocks the hammer, and then you pull the trigger again. Every time the slide cocks back, it cocks that hammer back, and that's what makes it goes off. This is a single action only. So if you look at these things side by side, the magazines look very similar. They're both 8-round magazines, but as you can see, the magazine catch is in different spots on each one of them, so they will not interchange. The ones for the Sig Sauer P220 are a lot more expensive because there's a lot less of them around than the 1911. You can find 1911 magazines anywhere. Now, these are not cheap. The ones that I use, these Wilson Combat 47Ds, but because they work. But very similar magazines, very similar designs. So, once again, 1911, you fire it. It won't go off again until the slide cycles, and then it fires. Every time it goes off, the slide cycles, it will be able to fire, but there is no double action, single action only. Now with the P220, double action and single action. You can do it either way. You can fire it single action, or you can fire it double action. Double action, just like a revolver, is going to have a little bit heavier of a pull, but that's always good if you're using this as a carry gun. When you have your very first shot, you want to be sure you want to take that shot, so it's going to give you a little bit of seconds to think about it as you're pulling back on the harder trigger. But after that, it's going to be as smooth as butter. Now, which one do I think is better for carry? I don't prefer one over the other, folks. I mean, I'm kind of partial to 1911s. I have been my whole life because they have exceptional triggers in them, but I'm not saying that it's a worse gun. Between the two of these, the 1911's always going to have a better trigger because with the P220, the first one is always going to be a double action pull. A double action pull is never going to be as good as a single action pull. Now, if you want to compare the resets on them, go back. There's still a little bit of take up in this thing after the reset, but it hits a definite wall, and it is a pretty crisp break. The 1911, I mean, this isn't really fair comparing it to this one, but this thing, that's how much take-up's in it, and it goes off. If you want to see the reset on this thing, that's all there is, and it goes off. I mean, this is an excellent trigger on this one, but like I said, this is a custom-built Wilson Combat Professional. It's not really fair comparing it to a 25-year-old factory gun here. That's just not fair. But anyway, folks, I wanted to show you the differences. They're very similar in size, very similar in weight. They both are chambered in the Lord's caliber, 45 ACP. The P220 is a little bit bulkier, but they're both single stacks, 45 ACP, full-size guns. Anyway, folks, if you have any questions on either one of these, I have extensive videos on each one of them explaining all the features. I just wanted to show you the difference in a 1911 and a Sig Sauer P220. Very similar, but very different. And a lot of people think they are almost the same gun, and they are not. But anyway, folks, thank you very much for watching my video today, and you folks have a great day.